Bitter Truths of Life. Inspired by a true story of a friend who has done her part in this world. May her soul rest in peace. Where do we go when hope runs out? When we're empty? When there's nothing left to count on? Days will come when you don't have the strength, and all you hear is "you're not worth anything," wondering if you ever could be loved. And if they truly saw your heart, they'd see too much. The world itself is over-flooding of sorrows that we human beings encounter every day. Sometimes, one may even have the thought of whether we'll see the sunrise tomorrow, or the moon shining through the eyes of the ones we treasure the most in our priceless moments, yet the thought still resents somewhere deep within our souls, as though it may seem less effective for an interval, but it never seems to diminish itself from within. That's when I saw life, right when I woke up from my imaginary world, and stepped into a world full of those. Knowing that life is just borrowed was the first thing I learned ever since life had been engaged with the real world out there. The world seems far less of what the reality is, in correspondence to the actuality of a human mind's perspective and its convictions. For what I've sought is far too embittered. Momentarily, one may never find a diversion, and all is left behind to an elaborate distraction from the problems that vex. It is indeed very much likely that many of us find life as to be a challenge, and that, in spite of all that life has done, continues to stimulate, yet many of us fail to get through the adversities we face. It is when, after the last tear falls, right after the last secret's been told, and the last bullet tears through flesh and bone, right after the last child starves, and the last girl walks the boulevard. It is when, after the last disgrace, the last lie to save some face, after the last brutal jab from a poisoned tongue, the last dirty politician, after the last meal down at the mission, and the last lonely night in prison, cause after the last siren wails, after the last young husband sails off to join the war, and after the last marriage is over, the last young girl's innocence is stolen, after the last years of silence that won't let a heart open, and yet in the end love is what we all seek. For many of us fail to acknowledge the fact that in the end is the ocean of love, for which we forget to see how the tears that have fallen were caught in the palms of the giver of love and the lover of all. And we fail to look back on these tears as old tales. We instead choose to put our sorrows ahead of us, allowing ourselves to be oblivious, and not to avail many of the world's happiness. Nonetheless, we mustn't abide ourselves to the given circumstances. Instead, we must learn to live like the gusts of the wind. Learn to flow with the waves like the ocean does. Meet every moment with your arms open. For what better you have today does not guarantee that you'll have a better tomorrow. The following article is brought to you by Canon, of Y103.